Welcome to 2025, guys. Thank you so much for all the support in 2024, and hopefully we're going to continue the adventure this year, Lord willing. So, let's start off the season by giving you an update on the Galaxie and a couple of other projects. Hang in there.
I'd say it's a nut job.
So we fired it up on the last video we did on it. If you haven't seen that, you really should. This thing is incredibly rowdy. So we fired it up on the last video. Our impatience kind of got the best of me, and I just filled the bowls of the carburetors and fired it up. I have been working a little in the afternoons and finishing up the plumbing system on the fuel, and it's almost ready to check for leaks. Let's take a look at what we did. And for those that are new here, because we did gain a bunch of subscribers in the last couple of days, I'll tell you why we did what we did. So the longtime viewers know we've been racing this car for about 6 years, but it's never actually been NHRA legal. It's just kind of been put together the way we could afford to put it together. We went whole hog on this new engine. A lot of good parts. This motor makes a lot of horsepower, and we plan on doing drag and drives with this car and some other events. In order to do that, this car has to be NHRA legal. So most of what we've been working on in these videos are things that will make the car NHRA legal. Correcting a lot of bad habits that I've had on the car over the years, and I know that. One of those things was I've always just had rubber fuel line on it and never thought anything about it. Well, we went from a single four to these dual fours, and with this new motor, of course, different intake, different heads, different everything. There's nothing the same. Well, I got the same water pump. And with this setup, I didn't want to just run a bunch of rubber hose again. I wanted to do the fuel system so it was NHRA legal. And there was two ways I could go about doing that. One was AN line. AN line doesn't really fit the look of this car. I mean, this car is a late 60s kind of style build, maybe into the 70s. And you didn't really see a whole lot of AN line. So we chose to go the second route, which was metal line. Now, you can see our two big honking VRS 750s here, and we've run metal lines. And I actually chose to do this. This is just my preference. I actually chose to do this where I have two fuel pressure gauges, one on each line. Since these are true double pumper carburetors, I chose to put a fuel pressure gauge on each line. That way I just keep better track of it. All metal line routed around the car over to our cool can. Now, you have to be kind of an old school guy to even understand the cool can, but they actually do really work when they're properly used. Over to our cool can. Now, I had the fittings to hardline this right to it, but I hadn't put clamps on that hose yet. I understand that. But I didn't, because I want just a little movement in case there's some movement in the engine between this, and this does move a little bit. I wanted a little movement there so I didn't pull on the line. According to the rules, I am allowed 12 inches of rubber hose on the fuel system. That right there, 2.25. That is 2.25 inches of hose. So I still have to correct this line down here, because coming off the main fuel rail of the car, there's rubber hose and a filter right there that goes up there, which will exceed that. So I'm going to take care of that. I don't think they'll allow me to run that clear wicks filter. I think I'm going to have to ditch the clear wicks filter, which I am a fan of those, but I think I'll have to ditch that. Other than that, the car is mostly ready. What I got to do now is really turn the fuel pump on and check for leaks because there's only about 9,000 AN fitting joints here to check. So I think I like this better than I do the AN lines, the entire AN lines. I don't know, but I think I like this better, and it looks kind of neater the way they're run. I still have to hook up my throttle linkage. I'm gonna have to run a cable now. I've always run a rod, always ran a rod, but I'm gonna have to run a cable now with this setup. I think that's about it under here. I still got to hook my front turn signals up. That's what those wires right there are for. If you did not watch the last video, we have, because I want this thing to be a true drag and drive car. I want this thing to be considered a street car. And I now have every single thing on this car working except these front turn signals because this car actually is all steel, all glass, except for the hood and the front bumper. Those are fiberglass. This fiberglass bumper, those turn signals right there are fake. So I've got to put real ones in and run those wires to it. I have all the lights where even the AM radio works in this car is what I'm talking about. Every single thing on this car works now, except the front turn signals and the windshield wipers. And I don't have anything I can do about the windshield wipers because I don't actually own any of the mechanism. I don't have a motor. I don't have the rods. I don't have the pieces that come up to hook the wipers to. We don't have wiper arms. I don't have anything for windshield wipers. So the car probably will not have wipers on it just because I don't really care to chase that down. And honestly, let's be real about it. We're not going to drive this thing in the rain if we can help it anyway. It'll be, we got caught in the rain if we do it on one of those drag and drives. So that's kind of catching you up to date. If you remember, we had a problem with our MSD. I put about 30 seconds of time into it before I just took it out. The 6AL box and this MSD distributor we've been running for years, but for whatever reason, when we went to fire it up the other day, I had no spark. The box would turn on, blink a few times, and then go off. And I tried to do a quick Google search to see if there was something simple. Honestly, got a little aggravated with it, so I just pulled the distributor out, pulled the plug off the MSD box, and dropped in my ready to run MSD in here. We turned the key, and it fired right up, just like it had been begging to run forever. So I think we have everything under the hood NHRA legal. I believe we're going to have to do a couple of little things like I'm going to get some. I went mind blank right there. There's some little clips you get that hold your wiring harness in place. This is a replacement wiring harness I bought and ran in it. So I'm going to get some of those little clips and hold that up. That hole right there, the rubber grommet doesn't fit real well, so I'm going to get a better rubber grommet for where the wires come through. Same with that right there. Get a better rubber grommet where the wires come through. And then I think everything under the hood will be NHRA legal. I believe we will finally have this car legal for NHRA competition. Now, the only thing I don't know is, because I haven't made a pass with this engine yet, but this engine is going to make a lot, well, this engine makes a lot of power. So this car is going to be way faster than it's ever been. So I will probably have to do some cage upgrades, which I'm on the fence about. I don't really want to do. This car has this car has a 4-point. Goes all the way back. Those bars right there actually go all the way back, and they're angled at just the right angle. They go almost to the rear bumper inside the trunk. They're awesome. And attach here, and I have the harness bar. I've done that so I always had a good seat belt. I believe I'm definitely probably going to need to add door bars to this car, which I really don't want to do because of my armrest and the way the door handle's made. Plus, I don't really enjoy climbing over them, so I want to research and see what's out there as far as swing away bars and what is legal and not legal. I don't really want to do the work to put swing away bars in if it's going to be an issue with legalities, because, again, the whole reason this car has been off the track this past year was to get upgrades to make it NHRA legal. So I don't want to do something that then is not legal. So I need to really dive into the cage rules or roll bar rules and see how fast I can legally go with each step. I think I'm going to have door bars. I would like to have swing away door bars, but I need to see how fast I can legally go with a 6-point. And it's going to take me a little more research, because very few of the tracks, unless it's like Hot Rod Drag Week, very few of the tracks that I've ever been to are quarter-mile tracks. Pretty much everything I run is eighth mile. A lot of the rules on this stuff is written by quarter-mile times. So I need to kind of do some math and some figuring to see where I need to be on that. That is the last thing I'm going to worry about, because I don't know yet what that number is or exactly how fast this car is going to be. One thing I know I will have to do, excuse the mess we have piled up back here, is all the AN fittings. One thing I know I'm going to have to do is the battery sets in the trunk of this car. I've never ran a cutoff switch on the back of it because I've never wanted to put a hole in the back of this car. I'm going to have to do that. I'm going to have to put a cutoff switch on the back of this car, even though I am absolutely just horrified by the idea of putting a cutoff switch on the back of this car. I think what I'm going to do, this bumper right here is a reproduction bumper and super nice. But these cars came with a bunch of extra braces in here. There's actually a whole metal piece that goes inside this bumper right here and bolts in here. It's a big brace that goes all the way across there. I left all of that out. It just has the bumper brackets on each side right here now. That leaves me with a few extra holes right here that are not being used. So I think I'm going to see if it's legal. I can put a cutoff switch right here in a hole that already exists and run the wires in through maybe the bottom of the trunk there. That way I'm not drilling a hole in the back of my car anywhere for a cutoff switch. Because let's face it, at some point in time, whether we all want to admit it or not, we're going to get to the point where I just don't want to do this anymore. I'm gonna get too old to, or whatever, or just too tired to chase around racing all the time. And this thing would make a great car just to take the wife to go get ice cream in. And I don't want to ride around with a switch on the back or a parachute or none of that stuff. I just want a nice cruiser car to ride around in with, two massive carburetors sticking up. No, we're not cutting the hood. We have a big bubble hood. For those that haven't seen this car, we have one of those nice fiberglass bubble hoods to go on there. Got the Gary Sinise Foundation on it. So I think that about updates you on where we are with the car. My biggest fear with this car is, honestly, at this point, it's going to be way faster than it's ever been. And it's already been, it'll make your heart skip a beat on tracks with a short shutdown anyway. The car stops. That's not an issue. But the car still has four-wheel drum brakes. And that's for a couple of reasons. One, again, for you new viewers, we started out racing this car trying to prove a point we could go fast with in a production-built car. And we took the original 390, we modified internally, we've done some modifications. We took the original C3 heads that came factory on this car, we modified them, and we basically took the best version of a all numbers correct Ford. I said numbers correct, not numbers matching. Ford that you could do, and we ran it hard. And this car at that time, with nothing taken out of it, This car weighed 3980, right at 4,000 pounds with me in it, with a 390 in it, a 30 over 390 in it, and we was running 760s in this car, in a 4-speed car. But we quickly realized that's about all I could do with that motor, and we started moving up in horsepower range until we're at the point now where there's actually no Ford production parts on this engine at all anymore. I mean, it's running an aftermarket aluminum water pump. I mean, there's the timing chain cover is Ford, but so we started here, and now we're way up here off the scale, gone the other way, and this thing makes some serious horsepower now, all in the efforts to go faster. So we went with that. How fast can we go with production parts? All the way up to now where let's see how fast we can go with this car and leave it all steel, all glass. So that's where we are now. So back up, the reason it's always been drum brakes is, the first reason is because we were trying to do it as Ford put the car together and just work within the confines of the parts that they offered on the car. So we just made their parts better by tweaking on them, doing some hand massaging on different parts. So we left the drum brakes on it. And it honestly, high sevens, mid sevens, the car stops fine. You get a little, you get a little more than that. It still stops fine, but it's one of those where you want a decent shutdown, because it's not just gonna lock down and stop on a dime. You got to have some space to get her to shut down. And now we're way beyond that. And I haven't been down the track with this engine in it yet, so I don't know how fast it's going to go. I just know this engine makes a lot more power, a lot more power. And let's just say not quite double. And the second reason is I actually ended up with somebody hooked me up with a disc brake kit that would fit this car. And at that time, we were getting ready to take the 68 wagon we have on drag week. That was 2023. We was getting ready to take the wagon on drag week. Now, I had no intentions of doing anything to the wagon. The wagon, again, was four-wheel drum brakes. And I had no intentions of changing anything on the wagon. But lo and behold, we were getting ready to leave for drag week. And the day before we were supposed to leave, one of the parts in the wheel, the inside the drum over here on this side, broke, and it was unobtainium. I could not get it, at least not any time in a reasonable amount of time. So I took the disc brake kit that I had set aside for this and put it on the wagon. And at the end of the day, the wagon's going to be my wife's daily. She drives that. She's going to drive that thing all the time. So I felt better with her having disc brakes. But that left me empty-handed, no disc brakes. So I say all that to say this. I'm not sure what I'm going to do about the brake situation yet. It does need to be addressed. I do realize it needs to be addressed. I don't know if it'll be addressed before I make the first pass in this thing, because honestly, the first pass I'm making, I'm not going to hang it all the way out anyway. We're probably going to do 60 foot or 100 foot or something like that, wide open, and just ease into it with this new motor and see what it does. You got to make one 60 foot before you can make one 100 foot. And you got to make 100 foot before you can make one 330 foot. You know what I mean? So we've got to take baby steps. My first initial thought is to jump up a couple of years to when disc brakes were offered and see if I can find parts to make factory disc brakes fit on the front of this thing. Because again, most of the time I run 1/8 mile. So even at its fastest, usually the shutdown roads are long enough. It's not a terrible problem. I'm not having to shut it down in 80 or 100 feet. Usually you've got plenty of time. There are some tracks that are sketchy, but most of the time we have room. So I'm going to see if there's some kind of disc brake kit on a later model one that will retrofit right on here, that slides right on these spindles. The only thing I'll have to figure out is the bracket that actually holds the caliper. There'll be some figuring to do. I've looked around online and there are kits available for this car, but honestly, the budget is kind of gone. And you guys know, if you follow the channel, we try to do everything as much on a budget as we can. I mean, even this engine right here, which is not a budget engine, took me about 3 years of buying a part here and buying a part there to get the parts together to build this engine. So it's just one of those things. It's just how we have to do things. So there is going to be a brake upgrade coming. I just don't know when, and I don't really know how at the moment. So I think that about catches you up on everything on the Galaxie. I believe basically we're waiting on a throttle cable, and then I can fire this thing up and run it around the yard, or even go make a pass at a local track if I want to, and then we can deal with the shut-off switches and all the other stuff that we have to do after that, because that should be fairly simple stuff. For the first time ever, I have put an alternator on this car, so we shouldn't have to worry about carrying a battery charger with us anymore, because again, I want to use it on dragging drives, and well, you kind of got to have an alternator. All right, so I think that catches you up on this particular car. Now we've got some other stuff coming in 2025 too. As soon as I pull this outside, as soon as I get the throttle cable on it so I can actually put it in gear and drive it out, I'll be bringing that Jeep CJ7 back in that you've seen on multiple videos. Belongs to some friends of ours, and it's been a slow process, but it's been one of those things where we buy parts as we can, and we've been building that Jeep, and it should be a couple of more videos to wrap that thing up. The one that might take a little time on it is we are going to do a paint job on that body work and paint, and we'll just have to, the paint part will have to come when we get a couple of 60-65 degree days, so that the paint will cure like it's supposed to. But it's coming back. We small block swapped it. We've got to finish up the plumbing on that and the wiring, and we got to do a little body work. There's a list of things we got to do. They're all this big, but when you add a bunch of things this big together, it becomes this big. So the Jeep CJ is coming back. I know some of y'all like that project, and that will be coming back. Also, 2025, as we done a video on the other day, the world's cheapest 67 F100. We will be putting that truck together. Hopefully sooner than later. We'll be doing that. Also, old Waylon's sitting right there. Y'all been around the channel for a while. You know our 63 F100 that we had Waylon. There's been some changes in that truck, and it's about ready for us to start putting it together. And as with everything we do, sitting back here in the corner, right there is a fresh FE, just being used as a shelf right now. A fresh FE that will be going in that truck. It's we'll say it's stock, but it's not really as Ford built it. It's a fake Cobra jet that never existed. So basically, you guys know the Cobra jets, if you're an FE guy, was like the 428 motors. That one has the correct valves, the correct, let me phrase it. It has the correct size valves, and all for the Cobra jet. It actually has a copy of an original Cobra jet grind cam put in it. A few little details like that, but it's only about 390 cubic inches. So it's kind of like a fake Cobra jet that's not really a Cobra jet. You know what I'm saying? You get what I'm trying to say. And I'm not trying to claim it to be nothing else. It's just some parts that I had laying around we built that motor with. I actually don't know how it'll run because we haven't even fired that motor up yet. So it may be rowdy as all get out, and it just may feel like a normal 3.9. I have no idea. We'll find out together on that one. What else? What else have I got around here? The 68 wagon. We're going to take it on power tour in 2025. That is a well, we'll talk about the wagon later. That's a disaster right now. The 67 Mercury Cougar that's up front. I've got an email that came yesterday about some exciting parts that will be coming for the Cougar. And we're going to put some parts on that car that I've never dealt with before. I don't know anything about. So there's some exciting stuff coming on the Cougar. And I'm a little nervous about that because, again, I've always kind of done my own thing. So somebody sending me a part, I'm a little on the fence about. I'm a little nervous about. I'm going to be absolutely real and honest with you guys. So we'll see. We'll see. We'll see how that works out, and we'll get more into that when it comes. What else? What else? Well, I mean, not that it really needs anything, but I'm sure we'll have some fun with the ramp truck. I've got a couple of ideas for some things on a ramp truck that I would like to update that is a little intimidating for me. The ramp truck, we travel all over the country and race. And the ramp truck is perfect. That thing runs like a dream. I've driven it all over the place, not had a minute's trouble out of it. And it runs so good. But it has one little issue. It has a boogered up exhaust manifold. I think it's on the driver's side. And it's got an exhaust leak. Always has. So we need to fix the exhaust leak. That shouldn't be a big deal. But one thing it does not have that I think would make life easier is that truck it didn't come factory with it. It's never had it. It's a non-AC truck. I live in the South, and it gets warm in the summer. I would like to add AC to that truck, but I've never touched an AC system in my life, so I don't really know anything about working with AC. So, you know, it's a little intimidating to me. I've never touched an AC compressor, never touched an AC line. I'm a roll down the windows kind of kid, and just the little vent glass, the 60-mile-an-hour air condition is the kind of guy I've always been. But as you get older and and in my case get fatter, you tend to sweat. And I would like for me and my wife to be able to go to these races that are a long way away. When we go to Ohio or Indiana, or we're in South Carolina. When we go to Ohio, Indiana, any of these Missouri, any of these places we go to race, I would like to not be just absolutely drenched in sweat when I get there and smelling like I hadn't took a bath in 8 days. So we have talked about putting AC on it. But I have no idea about ACs. All I can do is like most of you do and just research stuff online. I don't know what kit I could use. I don't know if I could pull AC off of a different vehicle and put on there. Bracketry, belts, everything. Switches, how they operate, how they're wired. When I say I know nothing about AC systems, I know nothing. So I'm a little intimidated by taking on that project. But that is something that we may do as summer gets here, and we may look into. I don't know. We'll see. What else we got? We've got some FE builds that we're doing. Oh, that tunnel ram system that came in the other day. If you watched that unboxing video, we've got that FE to build. We have a lot. We've got enough content to last us all year already here. So we definitely don't need to bring anything else in at all. So hopefully you guys will hang in there with us and enjoy it through the year. This was more of here's what to look forward to in 2025. So, guys, I hope you guys had a wonderful New Year's. I hope you enjoy it. I hope the Lord blesses you this year more than he did last year. I hope your fruit is abundant. To him be all the glory. And, guys, we are going to see you very soon on the next one.
say it's a nut job.